Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to officially call this meeting of the Mayor and Council to order. I would ask that everyone please rise for a moment of reflection and/or silent prayer. Being that it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I would ask that we think about the victims and the survivors and their families and anyone who's been inflicted with cancer. Please salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and attend any meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with this act, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of New Milford have caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Borough Hall, and notices have been sent to the record in the Ridgewood News. The mission of this governing body is to provide essential services through the establishment and implementation of public policy that will safeguard the infrastructure, provide fair, honest, courteous, and professional services, establish a sense of trust and accomplishment between all residents, and through research and prudent planning, seeks to minimize risks while improving our services. We are sensitive to the needs and satisfaction of our taxpayers, while realizing that this governing body cannot be all things to all people within the revenue constraints imposed by state mandates, economic conditions, and prevailing attitudes about taxation. Being that this meeting is being held remote, I need to mention the following. All participants are muted during the meeting. Anyone wishing to make comments or ask a question can do so at such time as the meeting is open to the public for comment and during public hearings on any ordinances by hitting the button to raise your hand or by typing a message in the chat box. You'll need to state your name and address for the record. Members of the public may also submit written comments for any future remote meetings by either email to cdemirs@newmilfordborough.com or a written letter to the Borough Clerk. Written comments must be received by 4 p.m. on the day of the remote meeting in order to be read into the record during that meeting. Members of the public commenting during the remote meeting shall not act in any manner to disrupt the meeting. If anyone becomes disruptive during the meeting, they will be muted. If time permits, the disruptive individual shall be allowed to speak after all other members of the public are provided an opportunity to comment. Any continued disruption may result in a member being prevented from speaking during the remainder of the meeting. Disruptive behavior includes, but is not limited to, shouting, interruption, and the use of profanity. I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilwoman Siraki Hurley.
Present.
Councilman Seymour.
Present.
Councilwoman Duffy.
Here.
Councilman Grotzky.
here.
Councilwoman Sandhusen.
Present.
Council President Grant.
Here.
Mayor Petrino.
Here. Okay. I'm going to read the Breast Cancer Proclamation. Office of the Mayor Proclamation. Whereas, during National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we stand with the courageous women and men who have been diagnosed with breast cancer and honor those that have lost their battle to this terrible disease. As the second most common cancer affecting women, an estimated 1 in 8 women will develop breast cancer over the course of their lifetime, and 281,550 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in the United States in 2021. Whereas this year marks the 30th anniversary of National Breast and Cervical Cancer Early Detection Program, which provides free breast and cervical cancer screenings to low-income, uninsured, and underinsured women in the state, as well as many tribal organizations and territories. Whereas early detection is one of the most important strategies for treating breast cancer successfully, and regular screenings are the most reliable way to detect it early. The COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted many parts of our lives and has produced new deficits in breast cancer early detection. So there is a renewed urgency in getting these recommended screenings scheduled before the cancer has a chance to spread and become less treatable. Whereas our nation has a long way to go before this disease is no longer threatens American lives, and the Biden administration is committed to doing everything they can to bring together our cancer research community, give them the resources they need to make progress in the prevention, detection, and treatment of breast cancer, and to give more people access to quality, affordable healthcare. Whereas as we observe National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we are united in our commitment to ending breast cancer and improving the lives of all those affected by this illness. We applaud the advocates, medical professionals, researchers, and caregivers who dedicate their lives to making progress towards the cure. This month, we stand in solidarity with breast cancer survivors across the country and reaffirm our commitment to advancing research efforts that deliver hope to patients everywhere. Now, therefore, I, Michael Petrino, Mayor of the Borough of New Milford, on behalf of Joseph R. Biden Jr., President of the United States of America, do hereby proclaim October 2021 National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I encourage all residents, private businesses, nonprofit organizations, and other interested groups to join in activities that will increase awareness of what Americans can do to prevent and control breast cancer and pay tribute to those who have lost their lives to this disease. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, we have an appointment. May I get a motion for Rosemary DeCirca for the Rent Leveling Board?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, thank you very much, Rosemary, for willing to serve, and we look forward to it. Under unfinished business, may I get a motion for the approval of the minutes from the September 27th, 2021 work public session meetings?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're going to adopt an ordinance, and when the clerk has the opportunity, I would ask her to please read the ordinance.
An ordinance to amend Chapter 2 of the Revised General Ordinances of the Borough of New Milford entitled Administration, thereby amending subsection 2-19.1 entitled Composition of the New Milford Police Department.
This, as you remember, this will correct the point distribution for education on our recently adopted ordinance. So at this time, I would ask for a motion to open up to the public for a public hearing on this ordinance.
So moved. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ladies and gentlemen of the public, if anyone has any questions regarding ordinance 2021:18, now is your opportunity.
At this time, no one's indicated that they wish to speak on this ordinance.
May I get a motion to close to the public?
Motion. Second.
May I get a motion to adopt this ordinance on its final reading?
Motion.
Second.
May I get a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Rocky Hurley,
Yes.
Councilman Seymour,
Yes.
Councilwoman Duffy,
Yes.
Councilman Grotzky,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sandhusen,
Yes.
Council President Grant.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to new business. On the agenda is to introduce ordinance 2021:19. When the clerk gets the opportunity, I would ask her to please read it.
Capital ordinance to appropriate the sum of $55,175 for the improvement of Pacific Street from Reichelt Road to Fowler Drive in, by, and for the Borough of New Milford in the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, and providing that such sum so appropriated shall be raised from a federal grant.
As the clerk mentioned, $55,175 in community development grant funds for the resurfacing of Pacific Street from Reichelt to Fowler Drive. May I get a motion to introduce this ordinance on its initial reading?
Motion.
Second.
May I get a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Rocky Hurley,
Yes.
Councilman Seymour,
Yes.
Councilwoman Duffy,
Yes.
Councilman Grotzky,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sandhusen,
Yes.
Council President Grant.
Yes.
Okay. The public hearing on this ordinance will be at our October 25th meeting. Item number 1 is schedule updates. I do have a few things to mention. This Saturday, the 16th, will be our Clean Communities Day. It's a partnership between our Clean Communities Coordinator and our New Milford Environmental and Energy Commission. It'll be from 9 to 12 p.m., 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., and we will meet at the DPW building. As usual, we'll be split up into groups. We will go out to designated areas and we will help clean up some trash and make things a little bit more tidy. And it's always interesting at the end of it to calculate the garbage that we do pick up. It's amazing how much that we get when we go deep into the woods and sides of the streets. On October 23rd, the Milford Recreation is sponsoring a Pick a Pumpkin. That will also be from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. That'll be on the Barber Field. That is the also known as the Babe Ruth Field. You can come pick out a pumpkin. They have decorating kits. So the kids will decorate pumpkins, and I'm sure they'll have some sort of prizes for really good pumpkin decorating. October 27th. Councilman Seymour, do you want to tell us about October 27th?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We are confirmed for our 3rd annual Domestic Violence Ordinance Symposium on Wednesday, October 27th. The event will be held at the New Milford High School, will be live streamed to the public, simulcast both to the borough's YouTube and Facebook pages with a link that will be provided later. It's not yet available on the borough's website. We are confirmed for those interested again this year to have retired Judge Ronnie Siegel returning, as well as the prosecutor and the Bergen County Sheriff returning, and all of our member agencies from last year. We're going to be joined this year for the first time by Allison Bressler, who is the chair of a Partnership for Change, the statewide nonprofit which advocates for survivors of abuse and domestic violence. And once again, the purpose is simply to offer resources to survivors and to share stories, with an extra emphasis this year on the survivors themselves. We're going to have 2 survivors, both of whom are new to the panel, sharing their stories with us this year. And we encourage as many people as possible to watch or listen. And even those who themselves are not trapped in abusive relationships, if you know others, such as friends or family members who might be, we ask that you please encourage them to tune in as well.
Can you mention the time?
Yes, the live stream will start at 6:30.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor.
On November 11th, the Public Events Committee is sponsoring our annual Veterans Day ceremony. It'll be at 11 a.m. and it'll be at the Borough Hall. And right now, Sunday, December 5th, is that will be the date for our annual tree lighting and Winter Wonderland celebration. It was a huge hit last year, so we're bringing it back. We're going to merge it and do a hybrid with our traditional tree lighting and make it one event, and hopefully going forward, it'll be a joined event. Did anyone else have any events they'd like to bring up? Councilwoman Duffy.
Yes, this Sunday, the 17th at 1 p.m. at the Borough Hall is the annual Fire Awareness Day. It's a very good event. We are very lucky that we have members of our department and some other departments come in and have activities for us all to do regarding fire awareness and what to do in the case of an emergency, as well as we have the ability to take a good look at some of our pretty impressive fire apparatus. So I encourage anybody that's interested to come on down and check it out. Thank you, Mayor.
It's always cool.
Yeah.
Always. Anyone else? Councilman Grotzky.
Thank you, Mayor. Just as a reminder, on October 23rd, the Shade Tree Commission will be having 2 dedications for 2 heritage trees down on Cedar Road, and that will take place at 12 o'clock.
October is busy.
Yeah.
Anything else that needs to be mentioned? Okay. We can move on to item number 2, which is our administrator report.
Thank you, Mayor. Request for qualifications for, there's the resolution to authorize the RFQ for the 2022 professionals is on tonight's agenda, and the RFQ will be posted to the borough's website on Friday, October 15th. Early voting begins in the state of New Jersey on Saturday, October 23rd, and will continue through Sunday, October 31st. Polls are open Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. There will not be any early voting locations in the Bergen and Milford, but there will be early voting locations nearby, and the locations are posted on our borough website. The governor signed executive order number 266 last week, which increases the pay for New Jersey's poll workers from $200 to $300 for election day, and increases the pay during the early voting period by a commensurate hourly rate. They are definitely in need of poll workers, so if anybody is interested, they're encouraging students to participate if at all possible. And you can learn what you need to know about becoming a poll worker by visiting the county's website or contacting them directly. The bid opening for the installation of the bench covers at the softball fields on Kennedy Field is scheduled for October 21st. The only other item that I have is that our next meeting is on Monday, October 25th. It will be held virtually, and we will have a short closed session that begins at 6:30. The regular meeting is scheduled to start on time at 7 p.m. And then the only other thing I wanted to ask, there was something circulated earlier today from the Environmental Commission, a recommendation about the ordinance that we discussed at our last meeting. And if it's the council's pleasure, I wanted to find out if anybody would be interested in making a motion to add that to tonight's agenda for discussion.
Thank you, Chris.
Lisa?
Yeah, I would be happy to make that motion. I do have a question, a follow-up question about the accounting, because in that recommendation, the Environmental and Energy Commission is recommending like a biannual, like twice a year audit.
You made a motion, so let someone second it.
Yeah. So, okay, sorry.
Can I
I
get
have
a
a
second?
question to follow too. Sorry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I can
Item
just-
number 3.
Yeah, I'll
Item-
just start by reading what the recommendation was. So the discussion that we had at our last meeting involved the adoption by the state, which was signed into law on July 9th, that requires EVSE and make-ready parking spaces, which is electrical vehicle supplies and service equipment, that they be designated as a permitted accessory use in all zoning or use districts, and establishes associated installation requirements. So we're looking to adopt the companion ordinance at the local level, as this has already become law. And we made a recommendation, or I'm sorry, a referral to the Environmental and Energy Commission at our last meeting to ask them for their assistance in helping to determine whether or not we wanted to include usage fees, and if so, what that would be. And we received that recommendation last night from the chairperson, Lynn Torpy. She said the New Milford Environmental and Energy Commission fully supports the installation of an electric vehicle charging station. In order to be fiscally responsible to New Milford taxpayers, the charging station should incur no financial burden to the borough. Keeping that in mind, the EEC recommends a 28-cent per kilowatt hour charge. A per kilowatt hour charge ensures that drivers are charged only for the energy required by their vehicle. Periodic review of the expenses and income associated with charging station use is encouraged to ensure that it continues to be financially self-sustaining. The EEC suggests a twice yearly review for the first year or two, and then reducing it to an annual review. And she said they would be happy to answer any further questions the council may have.
Okay, Councilwoman Sandhusen.
So this recommendation to charge a denomination based on per kilowatt hour is to bring in some equity into charging electric vehicle charging differences in battery sizes and the amount of electricity each battery will use. So that way it brings some equity and balance into the charging fees. The Environmental Commission did some research and found that across the nation, the customary range for charging for per kilowatt hour is between 20 cents and 28 cents. And that's why they have a recommendation to review it to ensure that it's fair and accurate assessment fee.
May I ask then why you chose the 28 cents and not the 20 or 22 cents?
Because New Jersey has some of the highest electrical charges in the country.
Interesting. Are you making any recommendations as to where these charging stations might be?
The one site is currently at the Knights Field in the municipal parking lot is the first place to, is the first project. Further sites would be discussed as needed, and with the zoning laws, it also includes, you know, options for new multi-use buildings to include the infrastructure for electric vehicle charging stations. But at this time, the Environmental and Energy Commission is only looking at the one location at the municipal lot at Knightsfield.
I have a question. Is it only appropriate for the stations to be on borough property, or can we request that a developer or redevelopment area include these stations?
Yes, to answer your question, there's a couple questions in a couple nuances in there, and that's a question that can go to planning and zoning, because there is an encouragement for people as they're building new infrastructure to include the ability to add them, because if someone's resurfacing, or the biggest charge is the installation of the infrastructure with underneath the pavement. So if a construction project is happening and you pave it over and then you have to go back and dig it up, that's the cost overwhelm.
If I may, I believe it's now a state law that with new development, you have to make preparation for electric vehicles.
You don't necessarily have to install them, but you have to have.
I don't know, Kevin was trying to speak about it.
Yeah, actually, the model ordinance and the state law envisions actually there's incentives which are somewhat counterintuitive to traditional planning, but the goal is to try to increase the availability of electronic vehicle parking. But they will get, and I'm looking it up right now, they get a credit for their off-street parking requirement that's enhanced. And forgive me, I just don't have it right off the top of my head. I was just actually looking at the ordinance as you're talking. A parking space prepared for an EVSC or make-ready equipment shall count as at least 2 parking spaces for the purpose of complying with minimum parking space requirement. This will result in a reduction of no more than 10% of the total parking required. So a developer can take 10% off of their parking requirement, you know, off-street, not off-street, but their on-site parking requirement can be reduced. In a town such as ours, I don't see a lot of big developments coming up. I suppose it could impact the the old ShopRite, which is, pursuant to a settlement. It may alter that because the law has gone into effect. But the idea is to encourage private developers to install these as well.
It's interesting.
Very
It
interesting.
is.
Yeah.
And if I could circle back to my question at the top about the accounting, because New Milford doesn't have parking meters or metered parking, how would this, my question is, how do we ensure that the funds are directed that are generated by the electric vehicle charging stations stay with that entity? Sometimes things go into a general fund.
Oh,
Is there a way to
It's not-
line item it, or
I don't know that you have an
how do you
entity
do
yet.
that?
I mean, that would be, you would have to,
Yeah, how would we set that up? I guess that would be
you would need some
preliminary
sort of
question.
a parking authority, I suppose. I'd have to think about it a little bit. As of right now, it would be, I guess, income, and then Chris could answer whether it goes in the general coffers or how it's allocated. But
generally with something like that, it would
Those,
be
yeah.
conjured into our electricity line, because presumably that's where we're paying for it from.
Right.
The recommendation from the Environmental and Energy Commission to make sure that the charging station is self-sustainable is that there are software updates and maintenance and insurance, and there are some costs on fees that they're still researching to get the entire line items, all the specificities. I'm sorry, I can't say that word. All the specifics.
Know what you mean.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what we'll do. Those questions, we'll definitely add it to our agenda for our fourth quarter finance meeting, because we will be
Yeah.
with the CFO. So we could have her start looking at these and seeing what other places have done.
Right. Right.
Is
Yeah,
there
we,
any- is there any recommendation in the state statute?
no, it's silent right now. That the charging is even optional under the local ordinance. For publicly accessible municipal EVSCs, it's just in section 6A of the model ordinance that I don't even know if we circulated it, right, Chris?
You did, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a blank in there for hour per kilowatt hour, however you want to do it. But as I read the ordinance and the statute, I don't even think you have to require it. I mean, you could theoretically have this for free as a service, but I never considered software updates or all the other things that are going to go along with it. So it's something I think after the CFO weighs in, we may want to discuss whether, there's a way to earmark this towards that. My understanding is anything that comes in that's not specifically allocated goes in the general fund and then is allocated as per, the CFO's recommendation, the administrator's recommendation. So it's a conundrum at this point. A good one, but
right.
and there's a lot of things to consider.
So my next question is, with the recommendation that we received, can I move forward with preparing the ordinance for introduction?
I think we can, because this is the model ordinance, and there was a gap in section 6A, which this now fills. And I'm modifying to circulate back to Chris. And then there was also another question. I don't know if because there's a blank in the ordinance. No, that's it. The other one, I just have to refer to the parking ordinance.
Kevin, doesn't some of this stuff have to go back to the planning board for incorporation?
After we introduce it.
Yeah, you have to introduce, and then you follow the MLUL.
Is there
And-
any, I'm sorry.
I don't know, given the fact that this is mandatory, what input they really have. It's, this is
Right.
somewhat peremptory on the part of the state, and it ignores some of the planning aspects of it, but they can certainly weigh in.
I have a question. We're talking about adding a resolution to, to approve the 28% per kilowatt hour. Oh, we're not doing that.
No, we're not.
I say it seems silly if we're going to have to do an ordinance that, in the future, why we would do this little piece now.
Yeah, we don't need to
No.
do a resolution. What I'm going to do is I'll drop that information into the ordinance
Perfect.
and it'll be on our agenda, our next agenda for introduction.
All right. No, I had thought earlier you asked for some in addition to the resolutions.
No, it was a motion to add this to the agenda, the
The
discussion.
topic.
And
right, the topic.
That's the one issue. And then I think it does provide, I have to look at it, but I think we can update the fees via resolution. They wanted more flexibility in that. So I don't know if that's what you're referring to, Council President Grant. But that's something that's allowed for, with the idea, I guess, because of volatility in the different markets, to change it without having to amend an ordinance. So that is contained in there.
Thank you.
Anything else on this topic? Okay. Do any of the resolutions need to be pulled out for further discussion? Okay. Before we open to the public, we'll go around. Everyone can give just one or two brief highlights. Be much appreciated. We're going to start with Councilwoman Duffy. You're first on my squares.
Awesome. Just Health Department news and Board of Health news. The Board of Health has formed a committee to interview applicants for our public health nurse. So we are awaiting their findings and excited for the next phase of new people in our health department and board members. So it's moving forward. Other things in development, corn stalks are going up this week with help from the DPW and beautification volunteers. And plantings around town still continue. Received a donation of some homegrown plants from the River Edge Beautification Committee that I plan to put in the park over by the north end of River Road. So always moving along with that. And the 100th anniversary has been meeting in executive session, and we have some exciting things we're working on. So I hope you're jealous. Anyway, that's it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Seymour.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, first of all, the school district and the Board of Ed, the district's been working very hard to make necessary repairs to their athletic facilities and other facilities from IDA, and they've been making a lot of progress, which is great news. The New Milford Municipal Alliance has already been working extremely hard to plan this year's ATOM event for November. And again, for those who are watching who don't recall, the ATOM event is a very important event, which brings the community together in the memory, of course, of Adam Roth, who was killed by a drunk driver, and to think about all of those we've lost to drunk driving. So I'm sure that'll be another incredible event that the Municipal Alliance puts forth. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Councilwoman Sandhusen.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to follow up with some information about the Clean Communities Cleanup Day on Saturday morning is that there are forms if people decide to. It would be very helpful in the morning to the volunteers in the morning if people would download the forms and have them filled out ahead of time when they come in and register, and those forms are available on the borough website. There is a Clean Communities Day volunteer button. The green team submitted 200 points towards the Sustainable Jersey bronze certification. There is only a need of 150 approved points to achieve bronze status, and that is in the review process. So they are expecting to hear by the end of October, beginning of November, if there's any further documentation needed. So thanks again to all who support the submission of documentation. And thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Siraki Hurley.
Thank you, Mayor. As the mayor said, we have November 11th as our, pardon me, Veterans Day. December 5th, we have our tree lighting and our parade, whatever we want to decide to call it. We'll have more information on that next month. I'd also like to add that with the historic preservation, we have someone who was coming in to do some history and looking up the tombstones that are there. Hopefully she'll be able to get possibly some information as to who is actually buried there, and also who might have carved the tombstones. So I know this might not seem exciting to others, but I'm excited about getting info as much as we can from our oldest cemetery in the county, possibly one of the oldest in the state, that we have our founding fathers buried there. So that's being worked on. And our senior center is going full ahead with the exercise programs and the ogres. It is opened, as we said, September 7th is registration. And it's been a busy but pretty cool month. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome. Thank you. Councilman Grotzky.
Thank you, Mayor. Just as another reminder, October 23rd, heritage trees will be dedicated. Also, the police would like to remind everybody to keep their car doors locked overnight and their key fobs out of the car. There's been a lot of car thefts going on in Bergen County, and they'd like to caution everybody and just remind them to be safe with their cars. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you. Council President Grant.
Thank you, Mayor. The book sale at the library on September 25th was a tremendous success. We kept the tent up from the previous week when we had the sculpture garden event there, and all the books were out under the tent, so there were no issues with COVID and masking and so on. It was a beautiful day, and many, many people came out and went home with loads of books. It was a very successful event. And I want to tell you, I mentioned a friend of mine who grew up in New Milford sent me something from a newspaper from the 50th anniversary of New Milford, and I will be giving this to the 100th anniversary committee for use during our celebrations of our 100th anniversary. It's fabulous. There's some great old photos, and the headline in the front says, New Milford, a great place to live. It was 50 years ago, and it still is. So thank you.
Thank you. Under Historic Newbridge Landing, they have been holding fundraising events for the building of the barn that they're going to put on the property. And they had asked me for a letter of support as the mayor of New Milford. So I am going to move forward with that, provide that for them. We also, last month, we received a certificate of recognition for our first step level of recognition for New Jersey Safe Routes Program, honoring the commitment and support of the borough by encouraging children to walk and bicycle. And they sent us a certificate with a little sneaker on it. So I will leave this up here and we will stored in the clerk's office. Other than that, I have nothing new to update. Anyone have anything else they forgot? If not, I would ask for a motion to open to the public.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any opposed? Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the public, we are open for any comments or questions related to the Borough of New Milford. All we ask is that you give us your name and your address, and we give you 5 minutes.
This time, nobody has indicated that they wish to speak, Mayor.
May I get a motion to close to the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. May I get a motion to approve resolutions 2021:224 through 2021:232?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Is there any other business before this council? If not, I would ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. That concludes our meeting. We will see you on the 25th.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good
Good
night.
night,
Good night,
everybody.
Good night, and thank you,
Good night.
everyone. I can't wait to see that newspaper.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good
Good night, sir.
Christine, thank you for your help today.